My name's Milecia McGregor, and this time I'll talk to you about changing career paths in tech. So before I was a software engineer, I did mechanical and aerospace engineering. So I've been through some kind of a career change. But the main thing, nobody really knows what they want to be when they grow up. We just all kind of wing it until we're ready to do something else. So, quick overview again, what we're going through. Oh, I guess my gifts don't want to work this time, but that's fine. So, it's really important for you to decide if it's actually time for a change. Then we're going to talk about what you can learn and where you can do it. Then we'll get into how you actually start the transition into a new career and how you can learn from people already doing it, and then you just do it. First thing, how do you know when it's time? So have you ever been at work and you're just restless? Like, you have a bunch of stuff to do, you have these really tight deadlines, and you'd rather go outside for a walk. That's a good sign. Again, disinterest in your work. Have you been assigned some kind of task and you're just like, I don't care. That's your sign. Another one, are you just constantly looking at new jobs? You know, you're on Stack Overflow looking up answers and you see that little jobs section hanging out, click on it and spend 30 minutes to an hour just browsing through? Probably time. Oh, did it? Oh, I guess it left out a word on it, whatever. But if you're trying to avoid certain tasks, again, if it's your job and you're avoiding it, that probably means it's some kind of sign to start looking around or trying to do something different at that company. So how do you really choose what you want to learn next or what you want to do next? And then how do you actually learn it? So first thing you really need to do is like a skills audit. Make a really exhaustive list of what you know how to do. And that includes all of the soft skills too. It includes stuff that's not related to your current role. If you have it and it is a skill that can be used to make money, that's legal, then you should probably write it down. Then one thing that's really interesting and it'll help you a lot if you're trying to figure out where to focus on, look through those job descriptions and see like what sounds interesting to you first off. If you're a software engineer and you're tired of writing code, maybe it's time to move to DevOps or something, or management, whatever. Just look through those jobs that you've been casually browsing and see what stands out to you the most, and then look at the skill set that those jobs require. One thing you'll notice really fast is that when you find one particular job you want to do, those skills are really similar. So for front-end development, you have React developers, Angular developers. It's all JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. So that's just one of those things. Be aware of what the market is actually looking for. And then compare those job descriptions and see what you really want to learn. So some of them, again, going back to DevOps, some people might want to use AWS. Somebody else might want to use Azure. If you're not interested in either one of those, you might want to find somebody using the Google Cloud. And then you start learning, just jump in. So I wanted to share a few resources with you first, because I know before y'all were asking about how you can get started with machine learning. So this was the class I was talking about on Coursera, and oh my gosh, is it really good. So it's free, which is great. It was made by kind of he's almost like the father of machine learning, at least from Stanford's point of view. But anyways, Coursera is a great website if you're trying to learn new technical skills, especially if you want to learn some more of the theory behind the software. A couple of other sites. Have you guys ever used lynda.com or seen it through LinkedIn or anything? This one is really, really good if you're trying to learn like different programming languages or different tech stacks, or even if you want to get into audio and music. It just has so many different things you can learn, and the classes are pretty good. Some of them are like a few hours, so you can get through them relatively fast. And Pluralsight is really similar to Lynda, except sometimes the examples are a little bit more specific to certain tech stacks. So if you know what you really want to learn, this is a good place to just dive in. If you have like an idea of what you want to learn, but you're not quite sure how deep you want to get into it yet, Lynda's a really good one. And if you just want like some theory and high-level overview of some of those complex concepts, Coursera is a really good place to start. Okay. So, after you've learned all of these cool new skills, you've done some of those projects, the 30 days of coding, or whatever the equivalent is for the job that you've decided to go for, it's time that you start transitioning into it. So, one of the things that I found some companies like, depends on where you work, but if you can pitch small projects that really help move things forward, like maybe there's something in your CI/CD pipeline that can be optimized, or maybe you see that it's time to refactor that AngularJS application and maybe move over to something not AngularJS. Just those little projects that you see the company or your job could have a use for. This is the time to pitch them and get some real-world experience in what you're trying to do without a whole lot of pressure. Write about it. Oh my gosh, this is so important. Get on Medium, get on dev.to, Hashnode, pretty much anywhere where you can write and publish, just write as much as you can. It is ridiculous how much more you learn from writing about a topic and trying to teach it to other people than if you just sit there and read and go through videos all day. Plus, it gives you a little bit of credibility. And then just start telling everybody you know or don't know that you're trying to get this new role. So if you've been pitching these projects at your company to try to make that switch over and you're not getting much reception, just work on your little side projects to start developing those skills, and then just spam everyone. Get on LinkedIn, get on Facebook, Twitter, whatever other parts of the internet you can think of that will be helpful. Tell everybody that you're looking for a new position in this kind of role. And another one, a lot of companies like it, at least if you're going to a different part of software or anything that needs code, a lot of places like it if you have projects on GitHub. It's an easy way they can look at kind of the way that you think about things, the way you write code, how you organize stuff, things like that. Or if you're doing something, I don't know, more DevOps-y, I guess you can build a good pipeline somewhere and show it to people. And then you already know, you've been through the classes, you've done the projects, you've started trying to get more real-world experience, but as you all know, there's just certain things you only learn with experience. So that's why you want to learn from people already doing it. And the people doing it already wrote the job descriptions, hopefully. And they'll tell you, if you really read into them, like actually read them and not skim to the requirements, they'll tell you a lot about the position that might have surprised you if you weren't looking at it. So, for example, one thing I was looking at earlier this year was a different software job for just React Node developers. And one particular job description stood out to me because they were just like, we make you go through all of these hoops because this is going to be pretty similar to what you do when you work here. So those job descriptions tell you not only about the new role you're trying to transition into, but kind of what the work life is like. And then, of course, talk to the people you work with. If you have somebody on your team in your company that's already doing what you're trying to switch to, talk to them about it. They can show you things, you probably have the same domain knowledge, and you can talk in similar terms. They can tell you, oh, you want to get started with this? Well, go look at this project. Go look at this website, something like that. And of course, you can always go to meetups and just talk to people like this. See what's happening just in the industry in your area. And then you just have to do it. You just have to take that leap of faith and go all in. Switching careers is really scary, especially when you've been doing something for years. You know that specific thing really well, and letting that go to move on to become a newbie in something else takes a lot of courage. So you have to be ready to take that leap and just dive, because you can always go back to your old career. So this can be something you do gradually, like maybe your company likes your small projects and they're just going to kind of pipeline you into that specific department. Or you can just be like, screw it, I'm done with this, I quit, I'm going to my new job. It's up to you. And then be as prepared as you can, but remember that you're just starting. So you might have 10 years of experience in your current field, but to the new people you'll be working with, you don't really have any. So you've spent all of this time learning stuff. You've worked through the projects, you've talked to people, you've read, you've written. You're ready. You just have to do it. So this is actually wrapping up a lot faster than I expected it to. Because we're already at the end. But everybody changes. It's okay if you went to college for something and you absolutely hate it now. Because that's what happened to me. I went to college for 6 years, got a master's in mechanical and aerospace engineering, and absolutely hated it. So everybody changes. As you learn more about your field, you'll figure out what you like, what you don't like, and if the dislikes outweigh the likes, it's okay. Just look around. Actually, how many of you guys have made the career change to software? Really? You guys all knew you wanted to be software engineers? Wow. Then be ready to do some extra work for a little while. So nobody likes to work too hard, but when you're trying to make the transition into a new career, you have to, because you're trying to catch up. You're trying to learn what people have been doing for the past 25 years, what's coming up on the horizon for the next 5 years. It's just a lot that you have to learn that's not really been related to what you're already doing. But there are some times where what you're doing does tie in. That's why you have to do that really big, exhaustive list of skills, because when you start looking at job descriptions, you can be like, oh, yeah, I've had management experience. Oh, I've looked at back-end code. Okay, I've worked with this particular framework. Yes, I can make that switch. And then it's not really that bad. Where it really gets complicated when you make that switch is when you try to hold on to your old career and bring it with you. That's usually not how it works. There's some good stuff that you can bring from what you were doing before, of course it is. But remember, you're going into something new. So as long as you're ready to stay organized and kind of follow the structure that's in place until you really understand why it's in place, it's really not that bad. Just try not to see it as, oh my gosh, I'm about to change my entire life. If I fail at this, then I'm going to be homeless and my family's going to hate me and everything's just going to be terrible. Because that's so far from the truth that it's funny, really. The worst case scenario is if you try to do this transition and you don't like it or it doesn't work out for whatever reason, just go back to what you were doing before until you figure out what you want to do again. And then you repeat the cycle until you figure out what you want to be when you grow up. And yes, yeah, that was a lot shorter than I expected. So, did you guys have any questions?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
So one thing that I struggle with is, there's the Coursera's, there's all these other things, and I'm going for my master's right now. And I still get the feedback that ultimately for certain jobs, the HR algorithms are going to weed you out if it only exists in your education or in your free time work. So, I could have solved cancer, which I didn't, but I could have solved cancer in my free time with a data science model or something, but because I've never held the title of data scientist, I'm not going to get past their algorithms on my resume. And the other thing problematic about that too is that a lot of analyst positions currently are actually very data science oriented, but companies are new and growing, they're figuring out the role, so they haven't really drawn that line.
Right.
Or they're purposely not drawing the line so they don't have to actually pay for a data scientist. So it becomes very title driven. I know there's not necessarily data people in here, but I'm sure this applies to other roles. So what is your recommendation? I mean, obviously the recommendation is you can know somebody who can get you plugged into the social pipeline, who can get you through the HR algorithm, like if you met somebody who's hiring and they can make sure your resume gets out. But I find that the hardest thing about this little career change is that they really want that previous role to be on your resume, and it doesn't matter usually what else you've done otherwise.
So one way I've gotten around that is if you can find somewhere to volunteer and do one of those projects, boom, there you go. It's on your resume, you have references of people that are like, oh yeah, she did this great work on this thing. So volunteering to do projects for different organizations is a great way to not only help them, but help you too. But especially help them, because do you know how hard it is for nonprofits to find any type of software people willing to work for free? Yeah, so if you can find somewhere that has, I don't know, some, data that they want analyzed, I really don't know what's in this area, but maybe it's a mapping company or some kind of children's organization. They want some statistics and visualizations on how kids are flowing through their program or whatever. That's one way you can get that on your resume.
There's also freelancing sites that you might try, like Upwork. You can just apply for part-time jobs and have that on your resume as well.
One little caveat with those, it's really hard now to get the freelancing gigs on those sites. Yeah.
Pretty much, if you can defend it to your HR rep, I mean, if you put that, yes, I have done this, as long as you can defend, yes, I have done this, whether that be for a nonprofit, freelance, if there's something that you can say to defend that, then say yes. Yeah, it doesn't have to be a paid for company position. It's just asking if you have that experience.
And then that goes kind of back into the job descriptions. That kind of tells you what they're looking for. So data analysts are used so differently in different companies. That's why the job descriptions are so important, because they help you really narrow in on what you should focus on for your resume. Yes.
Do you have any tips on moving from your current position to maybe an intermediate position? For me, I know if I went from my current career to the new career I'm aiming for, it would be 40 grand drop in salary. So I'm kind of wondering, how would I, not go into that beginner position and maybe go somewhere more in the middle? Is there any tips for that?
You could try to find some of those freelancing gigs.
I have one of those going.
Okay. You could try doing some contracting work. Because I think if you're trying to get the intermediate level, you actually need some experience on your resume, or at least some experience you can really, really talk about. So, yeah, that's tricky.
If I may speak to that, something I've been doing as part of my work is to make be satisfied with my work as a software developer. I've been sort of cross-training my social skills. I'll have to confess, as a programmer, sometimes there are days when I like to just, put my face to the computer screen and not talk to anybody. But it turns out that's actually really bad for a lot of reasons. Not the least of which is because it means that I often could solve the wrong problem. So one thing I've been trying to transition to be more happy with things overall, is I've tried to work well in venues like this. I help to organize, the GBG meetups. I also participate in Toastmasters, helping to just get more comfortable speaking in front of people and other things like that. And I find that branching out and developing those skills, it's good for me, and I think it is also something I can talk to managers with in order to transition to roles or other interviews. And I actually had a manager in a recent interview for a promotion tell me very explicitly that my work in Toastmasters was something that he was impressed with. So, something to consider if you're wanting to transition, but also continue to be able to do what you like, but also be able to pay the bills. I do understand that here too.
On that note too, one thing you can do is if there's like any overlap at all, you don't want to lie, but like highlight the overlap, because like I was an underwriter before I moved into data. That's like a crap ton of analysis going into underwriting, but I didn't have an analyst in my title, so I had to, and my hiring recruiter wasn't very familiar with underwriting roles, so she didn't obviously know they were kind of related. I had to kind of spell it out. So if you can spell out maybe where you've been is still related and foundational to where you want to go, that might help you too.
And then, like you said, doing stuff like this really helps. It's just getting to know people in that community. So go to their events, go present on something that you learned. Just get your name out there as somebody who knows that particular thing. That'll give you a whole lot of opportunities that you probably never saw coming.
And meetups are a great way to do that.
Yes.
So I want to pitch in, not to do self-promotion, but I've seen that happen a few times around here with GDG Sacramento. Before doing GDG Sacramento, I was organizing the Angular meetup. Now both are basically merged in the same entity. But with the Angular meetup a couple of years ago, I had someone send me an email saying, I want to learn Angular, I'm completely new to it, I want to become a web developer. And I said, well, sure, you can come to the meetup, you're going to learn a few things, you can ask me questions, start working on projects, do that kind of stuff. And he did it. He came months after months, 6 months, 7 months, 8 months. And after 8 months, he told me, well, I'm ready to present my project, talk about something, show what I've done. So I said, okay. And he took the stage, did his talk, and the next thing is interesting because right after his talk, the company where we were doing the meetup, it was not here, it was a different location, in downtown Sacramento, they wanted to hire him right away. And he did the interview literally 10 minutes after the meetup and started work the next day, right there. So it works. That's the best example I can ever find. It just, persist, learning on the side, getting out there, as you said. You can blog, public speaking is kind of tricky, but I do it with my French accent and it still works. So, so you can do it better than me.
If you link this discussion with the Agile discussion, you can take a look at your current job and say, hey, there's some things in here I might be able to pull in what I want to do into this job.
Yeah. It's just really, one thing to remember too is that it most likely isn't going to be the fastest transition unless the two roles are really similar. Like the transition from, actually, no, never mind. It's probably going to take some time. Because I was thinking about the transition from back-end developer to front-end or front to back. That's not the same. But it'll take some time. It depends on how much you're going to put into it every day, how quickly you want to do it, how much money you want to spend on it. So It's a lot of different ways to do it, but one of the big things, if you get yourself out there and start showing that you know what you're talking about, even if you don't quite feel like it, because even now with the machine learning stuff and programming, sometimes I'm just like, I think I know what I'm talking about. But you just have to be able to talk about it in a way that people understand. And if you can explain it how they understand it, then they get a better idea of where you're coming from, and if you guys will line up, and boom, you have a new job. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
And we are always looking for speakers. So don't be shy. If you want to talk about something, just reach out to us and we'll be happy to set something up, no problem.
All right, that's it for me then.